Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Debbie and I'm a mixed media artist. And before we get into today's video, let's sort of do the housekeeping and get that out of the way. As usual, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe and a comment if you have the time. These things really help to promote my channel and help me to be able to keep making content. There's a bit of a bandwagon going on at the end of the year, just as there always is. And I thought, well, you know what, I might see if I can jump on it and see what has changed and what has stayed the same. So I've called this video All the Best 2025, which is, yes, a bit of a farewell to 2025. And I'm not going to lie, a few of us won't be sorry. Somehow 2024 was better, who knows? But I want to also show you all of the things that I have loved the most in 2025 that I create my work with. And there are some surprises, and I shall flag those up because they're a surprise to me as well. Now, in February this year, yes, it's still 2025. In February this year, I made a video of things that I regretted buying, and I also said that I would make a commitment to trying to love some of them. Now, that's worked in some ways and not others, and yet others are starting to sort of come through as maybe I can use these yet. So 2026 will be really, really interesting. So I've got some things here on my desk, not just these, or a few things off camera as well, of things that I've enjoyed and which colours have come up again and again and again. Now, especially with my Patreon channel where I teach art and there are art tutorials all the time, I don't want to get the idea that you've got to have the new things all the time. There's nothing of that in my videos. Basically, I have a kit of things and I'm amazed how many times I reach for the same thing. Now, that's not to say that I don't have a lot of other things around. I really do, because I have full set syndrome. And sort of needing every colour in a set of things where if it's available, I will buy it. However, in reality, I reach for the same few things and create my pictures with those few things over and over and over, and of course you can too. I also like to suggest a lot of alternatives, because the trouble is there's one thing that I'm failing in as an artist, and that is I'm not psychic. Wouldn't it be so much easier if I was? I could give us all the lottery numbers for starters. But what this means is I can't tell what you've got at home. So when I create my things, I have to use what I've got at home in the hope that someone else has got it as well. So I do try to have a bit of a mix of things. And I mean, that's the point of being a mixed media artist as well, is that you have a really good mix of things. Sort of clues in the name, but I cannot possibly know what you've got at home. And so if only I was psychic, all of this would go a hell of a lot smoother, but every now and again it doesn't. So, but the point is I tend to have quite a narrow kit. Now, on my Patreon channel in the collections, I've got a good place to start collection, and in that collection is a small sort of selection of things that I reach for most often. And this video is going to be interesting to see how many of those things match up and what new has crept in. Now, so where did I get my favorites from? Is it just subjective? No, it's not. When I'm filming for either my Patreon tutorials or anything else, I keep a book so that I can write a list for my Patreons of what I've used. And what I do then at the end of the year, if I want to do a video like this, I'll go through that book and I'll make a tally. It's a bit old school. There's no AI or anything involved like that. I just go down and I write the names of things that crop up most often and make an old-fashioned tally of 5 strokes and see which ones occur the most. If I'm in a really nerdy mood, I'll plot them on a graph, and that's happened before too. I'm so depressed and sad to say. It gives me an idea of what's actually cropping up most often, because sometimes art is, like many things, it's very subjective. We think, oh wow, I've used that every week. No, you haven't. You haven't touched that since 1922. Ah, yes, that's me done then. argument out the window. So I do have all sorts of things around me here, but they're all things that have cropped up in my tallies the most often and in my sketchbooks. Right, well, I guess at that point I should stop yapping and start doing. Let's clear all this off, clear these away. Let's start with the one that I'm most surprised about. I will open the water as well. That will give you a hint as to where we're going next, because with mixed media, we do work in layers, and we usually start off with wet layers, although not always. Pastel layers are not always wet, and they happen too. But I'm going to start off with the biggest surprise of all for me. Get that out the way, and that is watercolor. I will link the video that I made about my biggest regrets and put it up here somewhere. And yeah, watercolor was in that video, and I was really sad to put the watercolor in there because I've always loved them. They're kind of, I don't know, they look like sweets to me in a sweet shop. And this is me being organized, by the way. I'm sort of putting things into colors now that I know, yeah, I like these, and I'm using them over and over and over. And just to give you some idea, here's my sketchbook. This is a sketch I was doing last night of a wild boar. This has got watercolor as a base. This has watercolor and pan pastel. So I'm using watercolor. Let's see what else is in here. Oh, just a quick sketch to start the book. Also watercolor. So just with what I can grab here quickly, this is how I use watercolor. Now, I don't use, why I didn't want to include it in my, why I included it in the things that I regretted buying and was almost teary about it, to be fair, was because I didn't want to use watercolors that granulate and then cover them up with all sorts of other layers. See, for example, there's watercolor happening here in the background. He is watercolor, and there's some down here as well. There's also gouache. There is also acrylic marker. There are acrylic brush tip pens. There are fine liners, colored pencil. There are all sorts of pastels, pan pastels, Neo Art 6901, Neocolor 2, all sorts in this picture of the boar. And the watercolor's gone, in my opinion. And this is just my opinion. It really doesn't count. It doesn't amount to a hill of beans in the real world, but it's my opinion. I felt bad about that. So I thought, well, something like gouache that doesn't do anything except color the paper, that would do. But when I finally was confronted with my decision of getting rid of watercolor out of my kit, I couldn't do it. And I spoke to myself in my head in my mother's stern voice. My mother wasn't always stern, but on this occasion she really was, that you've bought it, young lady, you will learn to like it. So I've spent the whole year learning to like it, and I do. Even though it's covered up, I can still see where it granulates here and there. And here, you know, these effects and so forth like that, I'm really able to see that it's not gouache, it is watercolor, and that everything's worked out okay in the end. So I thought I'd start the video with a happy ending because watercolor is a favorite of a lot of people. Now, I'm not a proper watercolorist. Please hear air quotes there, as you'll see there. It's not proper watercolor, but watercolor makes a fabulous, fabulous base for mixed media because you can layer over the top of it. It provides a little bit of toothiness sometimes because, as we all know, there's a limit to how many coloured pencil layers you can put on a piece of paper. Usually it's agreed between 5 and 7, working mostly normally. Some people can manage more, but they are proper, here air quotes, coloured pencil artists. I'm a mixed media artist, which makes me a jack of all trades and master of none. But watercolour is valid, as is gouache, by the way. Gouache is still valid as well. So that led me to my next question. Okay, we've accepted the medium. We've found a way to use it. I've done the right thing. Mother's voice in head is now happy. Which colours are coming up mostly? That's another thing, is which colours. Like if you're compiling a list of things to buy based on one of my tutorials, none of us are psychic. It's not just me that's not psychic. I don't think anybody else is either. And if you are, please give me the lottery numbers. I would, yeah, it's the first thing I'd do. So which colours poke up mostly? Now, as you saw from that wild boar picture, I like moody colours. I'm not a person who does bright colours. Like, there are some fabulous bright greens around. In fact, I've got some of them in here. This one here, that is going to get used mixed with something else. I like these dirty colours, in which case, even that's why I like sort of gouache and stuff like that, even though a lot of people say gouache can be very dirty. Yes, indeed it can, and I like that. That's why I bought it. So which colours? So let's make this a bit simpler and let's do some swatching. I'm going to move those things. I've undone those prematurely, so I'll probably spill them. So there could be quite a bit of sort of unexpected slapstick in the video, which there can be sometimes. Let me get a brush as well. I thought I'd prepared. I really did. Let's get a bigger brush. That one's small. This one will do. Number 8 round. It doesn't matter. It's just that it's nice if you can see them. I will be preparing a PDF to go with this video for my patrons, so I know all of you are watching because you get to see these first. I will be making a PDF of this so that you can have a look and see the labelled swatches when we're finished. Right, let's go with black first, the black tin. So I've been organising, like I said. Here, the first one that jumps out to me is Schminke Desert Grey. And I think even if I didn't do this exercise, if you were any sort of forensic person, you would look in here and see I have reached the bottom of here. That means I'm using it a lot. So one of my very beloved watercolours here is Schminke Desert Grey. So let's pop that one up first. That one is one that my personally gathered statistics from my work shows me that I can't be without this one. I love it because it's a warm grey. It throws these beautiful yellow tones as well, and I have used this for birds and what have you, just alone, and animals as well, because a good granulating watercolour will do most of the work for you. So that one is Schminke Desert Grey. The next one in here is, and again I have gotten down to the bottom of it, this one is a Winsor & Newton Mars Black. It's one of those nice ones that, again, isn't technically marketed as a super granulator or a granulator at all, really, but it will in certain circumstances. Now, my patrons will recognise this, as will my regulars on YouTube. This is a very smooth paper caused by Hahnemühle nostalgia. It's a beautiful sketchbook. It is not technically for wet media, so just sort of bearing that in mind. But if you nurse it, it will accept a few layers, and yeah, I talk about it at length in my tutorial, so I won't bore you all again by going into it here. But out of this whole pan of colours, these are the two that jump out the most. I think one that I would like to explore more in the future is the Van Gogh Davies Grey, but I haven't used that yet. It hasn't come up in my stats. Listen to me. So I'm not putting it in now. This is going to be the thing, the colours that jump out that I know I use most often. So you can see the yellow starting to occur here if I move it so that you don't have shine. There is a bit of a yellow tone coming out there. And this one, the Mars Black, I use that if I want a really, really dark brown, as well as black. So this is a good value colour because you can use it for several things. Right, so greens. I adore green. Green is one of my favourite colours. I haven't filled the box yet, so that's kind of important, but I have some nice ones in here. The first one that occurs again and again and again is Holbein Japanese Bush Warbler Green. Quite the mouthful, but it's a really beautiful green for most of the year. I find this green around me. Now, I live in North Germany, so we're green quite a bit. That is a green that occurs over and over again. So it's one that you can have all year and be pretty guaranteed that you will use it. The next one is an unusual one. It's actually Van Gogh Dusk Yellow, and as you can see, I'm right down to the pan here. Might be time to actually give these a Christmas present and refill some. I buy the 5mm tubes because a 5mm tube will do these pans about 2.5 times, and I don't overfill them because this one's a purchased one, because if you overfill them they'll stick to your piece of paper that you've put in, which is indeed what's happened to the brown. I can't even see the piece of there it is, my palette here. I did buy a this was a White Nights that was loaded fully, and it's managed to find its way onto here, so I'll get rid of that when it becomes important. So I don't overfill them, so I can get about 2.5 half pans worth out of a 5mm tube, which takes ages to use. And then I will undo the 5mm tube by cutting the crimp off the end, cut the top, cut it down the center, open it out flat, and then just use it until it's got no color left. Right, Van Gogh Dusk Yellow, which might seem a funny sort of green, but indeed it is a really nice. This green makes my heart sing. It's the deepest, darkest green. I know they said yellow. It's not. Well, it kind of could be, but I see it as a green. There again, I'm so sorry about the glare, studio lights and all that. But you will see these dry in the stills at the beginning and also the end of the video, so do keep watching, because then you can see them dry without the glare, which is awfully useful. So these two greens, I'm back and forth between the two of them constantly, according to what's in my book. I've got a Rembrandt Dusk Yellow in here too, but that's new, so that's not coming into it. Daniel Smith Undersea Green is another one that every now and again raises its head, and it's just another lovely moody color green and just really nice. So that's another one. Just seeing them here together makes me want to take the afternoon off and just paint. Then what else was in here? Holbein Full Moon Yellow is another one, and again you can see by the amount that's been used that it's getting some love. And it's another lighter one. I like these light greens because although my mixed media bits and pieces will go over the dark, that one's not really, but these here, these make a really nice grounding to do something over the top of that's a little bit different. Sometimes you need a lighter color underneath and you build up the darks and more lights. Sometimes a darker color is better. I have a sheep tutorial on my Patreon where we start out with pretty much almost a black sheep, but we make it white by using the dark undercoat to add all the nuanced shadows, and then you just put it's a long-haired one. From my area here where I live. Right, that is pretty much it with that lot. Just having a look, I made a list over here, just peering at it. No, that's the greens. I know I said green was my favourite colour, and you would have expected all of these to be green, but that's not the point. There were still a few that came up again and again and again, so that's where we are. Right, where are we in here? Again, there are a few that are obvious here. This one is Mars Black. We've done that one there. I've put it into my black palette and the brown palette because although it is a black, technically, as I said, I use it as a dark brown. So what's another one here? This one is Winsor & Newton Quinacridone Gold. This is another star player. And it's just nice. It's fabulous for glazing. If an animal or bird that you're working on isn't working, this is a great glaze over the top. Can be a little bit difficult to apply if you've got water-soluble layers underneath. But once you get the hang of it, it's a really nice colour and it will liven up just about anything you're working on. And in here, another one that stands out as being a favourite. I'm just going to pop some water on it. It's another Schminker one, and the Schminker super granulating colours do not appreciate you running into their bedroom in the dark with an air horn and telling them to get out of bed. They are very much like a teenage child, can I say, having been one. They like to be woken up slowly, so we'll do that. So whilst that one's waking up and having a coffee, and speaking of, we will go to Michello Coffee Brown. This is another beautiful one, which I value very highly, apparently. It's a slightly warmer brown, but not too much. So that's my third one in here. And apparently, according to popular figures, these are the colours that I reach for again and again. Now, it's probably not surprising. I'm a wildlife and landscape painter, so I can do a lot of birds with these, my blackbirds. That's my blackbird colour. I do a lot of birds with these. I do the whole countryside with these. You'll notice there are no blues, there are not many reds, and there are not many pinks. And even though I love a caput mortuum, and I do have a few around here, I don't use them as much as I thought I did. And it's really funny, because if somebody had have said to me, well, you know, gun to head, what's the list of your colours? I would have included caput mortuum in the watercolours. But in actual fact, when you look at the actual figures, that's not true at all. I don't use it every day. That doesn't mean I don't love it, and it also doesn't mean I haven't got it in other mediums. It means in watercolours, I'm yet to discover how great it is. I do have some in watercolour, but it's just not getting used, apparently. So, we're not going to pretend. I'm not going to put it here if it isn't getting used. This is 100% truthful, as much as I can. I may have miscounted here and there, but I just didn't see it come up, and it really surprised me, because I thought, you know what, I would be willing to swear. I'm going to blot that because it's more than capable of running away on me. I would have been willing to swear that in the watercolour, caput mortuum would have put in an appearance, but it hasn't this year. So these are the ones that are the most used. Right. Whilst we've got a brush out, and whilst we've got a few other wet media here, and whilst I've got my hands on a bottle of caput mortuum, having said that, let's do those next. Ink is my next thing, and I've got some traditional ink, I have some sketch ink, and I have some Daler Rowney and acrylic ink. A couple of traditional ones that I use, and again, these are the ones that the figures have thrown up that get used a lot. So this one is caput mortuum, and it's lovely. It comes in a nice big bottle as well. So that colour, oh my goodness, that colour. I have got to find a way in 2026 to use it, and it's going to be really interesting if we do another video like this then. Did it actually happen, or did I just want it to? Because my entire life has taught me that just because I want something doesn't mean to say it's going to happen. This one is Bister. I like this one because it's a really lovely dark brown. Rich, but not, I don't know, it's just the right colour dark brown. It looks like dark chocolate. Maybe I just need to have some dark chocolate and get over that little phase. But this is really, really great for putting the trees, the winter trees. Let me grab that sketchbook again. These winter trees are often done with Bister. And it's great because it goes over things that you're not sure it will. Let me just see if I can grab another sketchbook so we don't get sick of looking at that picture. There must be something in here that we can look at that I've painted that's got that colour in it. No, can't show you that. I've got a few things here. I'm still we're just at the end of our advent calendar on Patreon, and it's a surprise and I don't want to give it away. And I can't be sure where I've gone with it. So this one should be safe enough. This deer, I've used Bister here, and I've used it over the top of NeoArt 6901. So NeoArt is a wax and an oil pastel, which we're going to come to in a second. So technically nothing should go over it, but this ink does. It goes over absolutely everything. I'm actually yet, with all the things that I do use, I'm yet to find something that it will not go over, which is quite nice. So yeah, it's one of those ones. Here again, I've extended off with my dip pen, making some, just having a play around with deer and things like that. What else have we got in here? Oh, back in September, these trees. This is all safe enough. We've done this. All of the foliage here with the fox. All of this, fence posts, everything that you see that is dark brown, the outlines around the leaves and everything, all of that. This here. See, now that has started out with this one here, the Schminke Desert Grey. And you can see the Bista used all through here. So it gets a lot of use. It comes in a 100ml bottle, which is also very unusual for an ink. So recommend those if you can get your hands on them. This one, and I say that with I say that with care, because I know that a lot of you are watching me from places like America and Canada, where some of these things, this is German made ink, and a lot of them are actually becoming stupid expensive if you can find them. Right, this is Antelope Brown, and I like this because it's another 2-colour one. I really enjoy being able to say to people to use, oh gosh, this is a bit rich, to be able to use something that's got several colours in it, because it makes it cheaper for you. So this one is a beautiful warm brown, but it's also a kind of a warm green brown and yellowy colour, depending on how much you wet it out. And I've done that in the past, so I won't do that again here. But if you just keep watering it down and watering it down and watering it down, it becomes a really glowy yellow, which is also really useful. Now, speaking of really useful, apparently this year I've painted a lot of foxes and red squirrels, because this sketch ink, and the name of it is Carmen, it's Raw and Klingner, another German one. This ink here is made by the same folks who make this one, and this one is one that I use a lot. So obviously it's my fox colour and my red squirrel colour, and I have a recipe for both of those on my Patreon, and that sounds really psychopathic. It's not. Trust me, I promise I'm not cooking and eating any of the wildlife. The recipe is, what I've done is I've taken things that we paint quite a bit, and I've worked out a little kit of colours and materials to paint each one. So there's one for squirrels, there's one for foxes, there was the one for blackbirds, that sort of thing. And I'm going to add to them over the next year. But it's really handy if you're going out painting en plein air and you think, oh, you know, the blackbirds in this area. Well, this is the kit of things. There's about 3 or 4 or 5 things that you need. Put them in, and you can paint the blackbirds. That's using my method, of course. Right, so these are colours that come up a lot, and that seems to be most of the wet stuff. Next thing, so we can put that away, and I'm going to put the lid on the water, because you know what will happen if I don't. The next thing, let's go with pan pastels. I have been very late to this particular party, but boy, am I glad to be here now. These pan pastels are one of the most useful things that I have found. Hardly a discovery since other people knew about them. This is one of the most valuable mixed media things that I have used in, I don't know how many 100 years that I've been doing this. Feels like it anyway. They go over things that you might not expect, and they're just so useful. Where is that one I just found here? We did mushrooms this year, and I thought I saw one in here. I did. These mushrooms, I did some mushroom parades, I called them, just a sampler of different mushrooms. And one of the things that I used was pan pastel in concert with watercolor, gouache, and other pastels, i.e. wax pastels, which is what you're seeing here. And the results are just amazing. They're amazingly easy. The main thing was how easy they are to use over the top of other things. And this is rather the limitation and also the joy, but also a limitation of mixed media, is that the way I use things and the way other mixed media artists use things too, it's not just me, is not how the manufacturer intended. Nobody intended us to use things the way we're doing them, because we're mixing things in a way that people haven't thought of. And, well, I mean, in the particular way we do it, because, for example, who knew 100 years ago that one day there would be a Neo-Colour 2, for example, by Caran d'Ache, that would go beautifully with watercolour? And who knew that over the top of all of that, what you need was pan pastel, and that's what's going to give you some fabulous... And speaking, where's my deer? This one, this is a good example of it. The shading on this deer is, it starts with watercolour and then it gets going with pan pastel over the top of that. I know there's a lot of people who know this sort of thing, so, you know, it's not exactly groundbreaking in a lot of ways, but the way we combine our materials is unique, if I can at least say that, because the amount of materials we've got give us millions of combinations and possibilities. And I only use, well, it's a relatively small sort of window of things. There are still things I could add to my kit, but I think we're probably about saturation point, so I'm not. But, you know, just the sheer variety of possibilities for layering one over the other is mind-blowing. So, pan pastels are something that I'm starting to use. Now, there are two in here that probably shouldn't be in here, but the ones that absolutely should are these. This one is Raw Umber Extra Dark, and this has been one of my favorites. It's beautiful and dark, and on the paper, it just clings to the paper. You get the best effects. There's no possibility of water with this one that I've found so far. They don't wet out. Some do. Some pastels do. These don't. It's not particularly dark on here. See, even if I was to layer it up, you can get a little bit more, but not huge amounts. But over the top of other things, it'll grip onto the pigment and it becomes totally different, as you saw with the deer. The next one is Bright Yellow Green Extra Dark. Just trying to find a little bit on one of my applicators here that hasn't been sullied by anything else. Let's try this here. This is another one. And as we go through here, you'll notice that some of the colours are quite similar. That Bista looks really weird on here. It's very, very much lighter than it is when I put it in my dip pen and use it on the branches that I showed you before. It does look different. As we go through here, you'll notice that there are some familial relationships. Ink, watercolour, much the same. Pastel, watercolour, very similar colours happening. Dark browns, sort of, that and that. And these look fabulous layered up together in a picture. So you can start with a watercolour background or pan pastel for the skies, one of my favourites. Pan pastel for the sky, then put something else over the top that's a different product, but the same colour. And you get this really moody depth. This is another one that I've got out constantly. This one is Red Iron Oxide Extra Dark. And again, you can use it darker or a little bit lighter. It's got a lot of subtlety. So those, fabulous. This one's another one. This one is, yes, Chromium Oxide Green Extra Dark. I keep forgetting that I'm right-handed. Apparently 56 years is not long enough to actually get the message on that one. So I tend to start at the wrong side of the page. Darker green, a little bit sort of more like this one here. Very, very, very useful. Over here in this big palette, I would pick out Phthalo Blue Tint. If you are starting out collecting pan pastels, the colours to start with, and again, you may have these in your house. I will check my crystal ball. But if you've got Phthalo Blue Tint, Raw Umber Tint, and titanium white, just these three, you can do so much with that, because you can do skies, sunny skies, slightly overcast skies, mists, cloud formations, all that sort of thing with these three. If you then add in a burnt sienna or an orange tint, burnt sienna tint, orange tint, or red iron oxide tint, you can do so much more, because you can start bringing sunsets in. And I said, or one of these three. You don't need all of them. You take the one that appeals to you the most. Sometimes there are colours that are local to where you live. I grew up in Australia, so there'll be colours there that are not local to Germany where I am now. So you have a look around you, but you also look at the colour that inspires you the most. Which one do you like? I'm not going to put these two down. I shouldn't have got them out. I had to stop myself before, and apparently I didn't succeed this time. This one is Burnt Umber Medium, and this one is Neutral Grey Extra Dark 1. These two I'm hoping will be, I've used them a lot in the last couple of weeks since I've had them. So these are going to become a bit of a favourite in the future, I predict. We will see. So I'm not sure about those. I'm not going to put them out because that's the rule and we're sticking by it, apparently. So that's Pan Pastel. Those are the colours that crop up again and again. I haven't put the white down because you won't see much of it on here anyway. I will put this Raw Umber tint though, because that's another one. Just looking at my list before I put everything away. I don't use a script for these videos. I very rarely have a list. Today I have, because otherwise it will be overwhelming completely and I forget to look at it. So normally I just start talking about things and the rest just goes. That's Raw Umber tint, which is the lightest form of some of the other, the Raw Umber family. This one here, the Raw Umber Extra Dark and the Raw Umber tint are the same family. So really, really useful. So all of these are useful for moody landscapes. So this brings us to some of these pastels that I've been talking about. I've got three here that crop up regularly. I have got my beloved Caput Mortuum. This was in one of the Caran d'Ache anniversary sets. This was the dark set. They've not actually troubled themselves to put it anywhere on the box that I can see. So these are not available in open stock, which is why you might say, well, if you've had that a year and it's one of your favourites, how come there's so much of it left? Because I'm scared to use it. Simple as that. I am terrified to use it. Every now and again, I will bring it out and do something with it and then put it away again. And yeah, I think I'm going to have to get over that because otherwise there's no point having it. I love this Moody purple and I do try to use it. I've used it now more than all year. I don't wet these out. I rub them because I like the effects better. And as you can see, that absolutely amazing purple, which is now all over my fingers. So the water that I covered, I'll now uncover and use it as a finger bowl. I love it. You can see, I think, why I love it. If you're any sort of purple person, or again, Caput Mortuum, here's my other one, the Caput Mortuum ink. This is this one. I have other Caput Mortuum colours. I've got some gouache and I've got some watercolour, but they haven't come up. This one comes up a lot and I've learnt to really use it sparingly. I have an idea that it will be, I'll have it for a while, but I just wish they had those in open stock. Caran d'Ache Neo Art 6901 are a new product this year and they're lovely. I really love them and I'm looking forward to some more colours actually. This one is Burnt Ochre 10%. And like I said, these inks, this one and this one, these traditional inks, they go over the top of this, even though it is a wax and an oil. This one is Primrose, which, as you can see, gets a lot of action. And this one is Bismuth White. Now, I do use white as well, but again, I can't show it on here because there's no point. If you were only buying one of these, this is the one you want, Primrose. It's light enough to be called a white, and it's dark enough to be seen. And it's so useful for my resist technique, which my students on Patreon are probably sick and tired of hearing about, but it's brilliant for that. So if you only get one, Primrose is the one. They're not incredibly expensive each, but by choosing a color carefully that does a very big lot of duty for you, you can make your art, dollar, pound, euro go a lot further. Right, so that now brings us to coloured pencils. Again, I have all the coloured pencils in Derwent Drawing. I have all of them in Caran d'Ache Luminance, and I have them in Derwent Lightfast and several other brands, and that's because of full set syndrome. I even buy the ones I don't like. I know I don't like them, but I will buy them anyway. I'd like to say that I'm going to work on trying to get better next year, but I'm not. Gosh, hang on. One of my video lights, which I didn't plug in, has just decided that that's it for the day. Well, it's not. Yeah, I'm not going to get better. I'm not even going to try. I'm not even going to the meetings, and I'm running them. So that's not going to happen. I'm going to keep buying all the pencils. However, you don't need to. Please remember, I'm not trying to play a part in anybody's economic downfall. You don't need to buy all of the pencils. Okay, Derwent Drawing. My favourite is Chinese White for going over absolutely everything. It is a brilliant pencil if you want a bright white. And I have other videos on this. I have spoken about it ad nauseum. This one comes up in my book all the time. I won't use it here because you won't see it, same as the other whites. Warm Earth. This one, as you can see, is getting some love. This is a really nice medium browny sort of buff, dark buff. It's fabulous, and I love the creamy laydown. This one here is Pale Cedar. Fabulous. It's a greeny grey, and that's always a good thing. This is really useful for background trees if you want a really deep forest and woodland. This is really good. Even though the trees aren't actually this colour, the trunks and things like that, don't be put off by the fact that it's a green. It looks misty and distant when you put it in a certain way in a picture. So that's a good one to have. The other one I've got in my hot little hand here is my favourite colour ever, Forest. And it's just wonderful. Now, those of you who are paying attention will see in a second that I have a forest in Derwent Drawing, and I have a forest in Derwent Lightfast because I love it. Actually, Caput Mortuum and Forest. Be hard to tell which one I love more, but I love these dark, moody colours. Why have I got two colours exactly the same in a pencil that can run to quite a lot of money? Because they do different things. This one is a much thicker barrel and a much thicker core. It's one of their new range, actually, that have come out just in the last few weeks, actually. This one is a thinner barrel and therefore a thinner core and also a slightly harder pencil. So although they are identical colours, the laydown feels different and what you can do with them feels different. So I have both, and it is extravagant. If you had to choose one, you would be better off with this one because you can do finer work with it, whereas this one is for bigger areas, and it's also layers differently over our other media. It's slightly creamier. You get this grainy look with it. I wish I could send everybody one of each, actually, both, because like a life support system, you would ask yourself how long you have to have it on for per day. You need both all the time. So these are so useful, again, for my type of art. You may do a totally different sort of art, or you might be interested in what I'm doing, in which case these are a necessary part of the kit. You'll see me use them every day. Let's go on with some more of these DLF Derwent Lightfast. Mars Black again. And as I said to you before, I use different materials but the same colour. So we've got Derwent Lightfast here. We've got Watercolor, Winsor & Newton Watercolor, Mars Black, and I have a Derwent Lightfast in Mars Black. They will get used together. that reinforces that, especially when I do a blackbird. I can't seem, oh gosh, normally I've got them all round me. No, I'm doing some framing and they're across the other side of the room. Normally, and you will have seen my blackbirds if you've been following along for a while, this one reinforces that. And it's also got a magic trick that you can't see, and that is if you burnish over the top with a white pencil, you get a purpley colour, and it's a purple that's very similar to that. So many of these things, for example, forest is a greeny grey, which means it can come out looking a bit grey. There's still green there, indisputably green on both, but see the beautiful colours that it throws if you burnish with white. So that's Mars Black. The other one here is Chestnut. This is a recent discovery, but it's going in anyway because, apart from the fact that I just broke the tip, that's me being a bit overzealous, it falls kind of, to my eyes, between that Caput Mortuum and that Caput Mortuum. So as a pencil, it's a really nice Caput Mortuum. I know Faber-Castell have a Polychromos in Caput Mortuum Violet, but I do some birds with those pencils, and I've naturally got them all, even the ones I don't like. I bought them anyway. It's a harder one. It's better for detail work, but it's harder. I prefer the lay down of these. So this Chestnut is my go-to for Caput Mortuum because it works, again, it reinforces this. If we were to go over the top of this with that pencil, it just gives it a boost, and it's kind of useful when you're doing things. So yeah, when you've got this red iron oxide, this one here, oh, I hate putting these lids on. If anything could be changed in the art world, apart from this being open stock and free, red iron oxide extra dark, which is this one here, is very, very good used with this. They all just add extra firepower to each other as you layer them, which is really, really useful. Next, I've got Caran d'Ache Luminance, and this one is Burnt Ochre 50%. This one comes in so many times in my buildings. There's a piece of ribbon under there and I can see it. This one is, yeah, it's just so great for warming up a building. And as you can see, it goes with this one here. Now, the thing is, it's not a secret. Apart from Bismuth White, which I don't think does have a match. The Neo Art 6901 many of them match the Luminance 6901. Just in case you're new, I know there's a lot of you around who knew that already, but there are also a lot of people here who are new. This one's not an exact match. There's another one of these that is an exact match, but this one is Burnt Ochre 10%. This one's Burnt Ochre 50%. And there's also a Burnt Ochre 10% kicking around somewhere, but they do match. They're both 6901. So if you're new, that's not a coincidence. They work together quite nicely. And they do. They layer nicely. You can do nice effects with both of them. This one is my Green Ochre. And again, this is the one I use with Forest. And I use it with these dark colours over here. Lovely yellow green. That's as bright as these are bright. That's what I call a bright colour. So gives you a bit of an idea. This one's French grey. Again, buildings. I use this as a grey. It is a purple. It's slightly purpley under there. Fabulous colours in that. And really, really useful. Right. That is almost everything. However, there is one more small category of things that I've used more and more, and I would like to show you that last. Right, I love all of my art materials, and I love the fact that some of them have a slightly different delivery system. For example, you can get a watercolor that you put on with a brush, and you can get a watercolor marker. You can get an acrylic ink that you put on with a brush. You can get an acrylic ink marker. You can get acrylic markers as well, like our Poscas and things like that. So something that comes up a lot for me, and you'll see when you see the state of it, you'll see what I mean. Watercolor marker, my favorite one is Pro Marker by Winsor & Newton. followed by Faber-Castell and the Winsor & Newton one. Don't look away now if you're easily scared. Look at the state of that. Mind you, it still works, and it really is a wonderful glaze, and it suits the Quin Gold. It's really even suits my Fox Orange. But the Quin Gold and this one, this is yellow ochre, and it's so useful, really useful. So that's for glazing. Glazing is where you put a transparent or semi-transparent layer over something else so that you can still see everything underneath, but it brings the colour out. And if I can bring my wild pig back into play, that has been glazed with that there after several other layers. We're doing wild pigs on my Patreon in January, I think, because I've got this silly idea. My autistic brain classifies animals into different seasons. Like I said, I know they're around all year, but to me some things are a winter thing or an autumn thing. Wild pigs, January. Foxes, September. Deer, December. Got them all. This is the Faber-Castell Albrecht Dürer watercolor marker in warm grey 4, and it is second to none. It's actually 0 to none. This shows you how much I do use it. I have another one somewhere because this one is sort of almost dead. I'm going to keep going. This is a fabulous one for shadows. It's easy to use, so it's easy to get the effects. And like I said, I do have another one because as well as full set syndrome, I've also got a fear of running out syndrome. So we've heard of FOMO, well, FORO, that's new, fear of running out. I grew up in the country in the middle of nowhere, so that's probably why. Yeah, this one's dead. Gosh, I'm going to have to throw it away. I'm not sure I can do that yet. I might frame it. So those two watercolor markers are absolute favorites. And as you can see, they're not behaving the way they will on layers. At the moment, some of these also, they look totally different on here, to be fair, because this is the white of the paper. Some of these stain and they will go into the paper. They lose some of their luminance that way. But the big advantage of mixed media art is when you put them over the top of something else, like if you put this one over the top of a light colour like that, or one of the pan pastels or some coloured pencil, the luminance stays and it looks totally different as a glaze. So it's a little bit dead looking there, so you have to please take that one on trust. So finally, let's give these all a shake up, which will give you a hint as to what they are. I am recently addicted to brush tip markers. There are a couple of them that I use very, very regularly. These are the acrylic ones. I'm just sort of grabbing one that I'd forgotten in my drawer. This also happened. These acrylic ones are not acrylic paint, they're acrylic ink, and they are Trendgate, which is a pretty much not much brand on Amazon, but the colours are stunning and I really enjoy using them. And these three colours have cropped up several times because again they play in with all. See, this is going to be very similar to that and awfully similar to that. It's a different way of using the same thing, and again I must reiterate, this is not a call to action. Buy these. I'm not selling them. I paid for them with my own money. None of these are product endorsements, actually, not one. These are just the colours I use most often, and these three colours have cropped up a lot. I'll use this one to highlight branches, which usually aren't that colour, but you know, dark brown, use that to highlight. This is great for grass and little leaves. And here again, let our wild pig have its final moment in the sun. These leaves here and bushy bits, they are all made with these because quite conveniently brush tip markers have the perfect tip ready for making leaves. So you can really make quite a lot of leaves very quickly if you have a couple of colours. They came in a box of 36, I think. Quite inexpensive. When I say that, compared to some things in Germany, they're quite inexpensive. It was about 24 euros for 36, and they've got some lovely colours. So you don't get to choose the colours. They're not open stock. You buy the box. And you can choose 3 colors out of them because they have plenty of choices. So all of these marks here on these twigs have all been done with this color and this color as well, layered one over the other. Here, got several colors. And yeah, oops, sorry, not on camera, not helpful. Trying to show 2 at once and it doesn't work that way. I don't think it's going to work at all. This is so easy, and you can get in there and make these little leaf shapes just by dabbing the marker on because they're already shaped. You can also, you get back there, you've had your minute. You can also use a brush and acrylic ink for this. So you could use this ink here or any one of these inks, but mainly acrylic ink because this is much the same sort of thing. Acrylic ink and a brush will get you the same thing, but it does require you to slow down and use different skill set. It is easier in this case to use those. Where's the other one? This one here is the Zig Clean Color Real Brush Marker, and this one is dark green. Now the difference between the two, these are brush tip markers, but they're not really brushes at all. If you push on that, it's just a felt tip. This, if you push on it, it splays out and shows that it's actually a brush. And I use, gosh, 2 caps, trying to get them right. Okay, I use this one here, which is this beautiful dark green, and I use it to create fir trees with. I haven't actually on that one. Having said that, this is not where I've done it. I've used a different thing there. Oh, here, these fir trees. Those are super, super easy to do using the real brush marker. Again, yes, you can totally use a brush. If a brush is a cheaper. Brush and a tube of paint, you can do that. I like to use different things, so I have. But yeah, like I said, I can't sort of talk for everybody, but that's what I use. What else is there? I think we're about there, actually. I'm sure there's something that I've missed that I should have said something about and have totally forgotten it. I must admit, I have been starting to use my Tombos a bit more often. They haven't been used enough to show up in the figures so far, but they will, because that's this sort of thing here. This one's actually a Lyra, but Tombo's Lyra, same thing. It's a felt tip. It's not light fast, but they've got some gorgeous colours and they're very popular amongst mixed media artists, but they're not easy to use. They are touted as being quite beginner friendly. They aren't. I'm going to put this one down because this one does occur a lot. Again, same sort of colours. I'm kind of autumn all year. I'm pushing for it until it happens. They're double-ended. You've got 2 ends. I hardly use this bit. It's nice, but I don't need it. Although when I'm painting grasses, I do. So earlier on in the summertime, I'll just see if I've got anything in here. I've filled some sketchbooks lately. Might turn it the right way around would be helpful, because there are some summer things here. But I bet there's not what I want. Oh yeah, here we go. This was a tutorial on my Patreon actually in the summer, as were these. So these, I used the thin end to do those grasses in different colours. So they're actually really very useful as well. That's the one that comes up the most. Again, there are different makes. People call them Tombos, but in actual fact, I suspect sometimes that is becoming a generic term like Hoover or Thermos. But Tombos are one make of them. You can get Faber-Castell ones, you can get these Lyras, and they all have wonderful colours. So this is my most beloved list for 2025. Like I said, all the best. And I can see myself using this again next year. I can't see myself not using some of these unless, that one I'm looking at you, unless they run out and are not replaced by the company, which would be a huge pity. But yeah, these are the things that I go for again and again and again. And like I said, not a call to buy. This is just what I've found. So you might find something different. I've got other colours too that I swear should have been in here, but like I said, that's my imagination. So I do hope you've enjoyed this, and if you want to see how I use these, then consider supporting me on Patreon and joining in the classes. I don't run it like a regular Patreon where you sort of just pay out and nothing. I provide 3 art lessons a week for €10 for the month. So you get a lot of videos, and also I answer all questions and everything, and if you make suggestions, I'll try to work them in. Sometimes it takes a little while, but my lovely patrons stick around a bit, so eventually everybody's request comes up, and it's a happy place to spend time. They are a super bunch of people, actually. And one of the best things I've ever done is to get my Patreon together and attract some of the nicest people on the planet, might I say. So do consider joining us, and we do these lessons, and I have pointed out a few. The wild pig will come into it in January, so you'll find out all about how to do all that lovely rich undergrowth and all those nice layers, and these colours you will see. If you do yourself a bingo card and write them up and visit me, I bet you can tick a fair few off in the first week, because the sad thing is my realization that I probably don't need any of my other art materials I've bought, because these are the ones that I use the most often. But at the same time, I'm happy that I've bought them all, because it's only through trial and error and learning with them that I know that I love these. I didn't know I loved them until I used them again and again and again. And again, I could add to these. I could add my sketchbooks. The Hahnemühle Nostalgia is one of my favourite sketchbooks, and it's the one you see me use the most often. I have a couple of others, but statistically they just don't stack up. I love this one, even though it's not really meant for mixed media, as in wet layers. It'll take some, but it doesn't like a lot. But you can work with it, and I show you how as we do our lessons. But I've also got acrylic. I have gouache. I do use all of those things, but not as much as these. This is the list, the official list. And yeah, there's lots in here. Actually, I'm not even sure I finished that one. Actually, this is the one. This is what I was talking about before, where I'd go background with pan pastel and then come in with the same sort of coloured pencil. So you might do a background. I have another colour somewhere. I think it was the burnt sienna tint, and then come back with these colours over the top to make layers like that. Oh, that was a tutorial on Patreon. And just playing around, collage, all sorts of different things. There's so much. And these are the colours that keep coming up. Jelly print. I could have put my jelly plates in here as well, and therefore the acrylic paints that I use to paint on them with, because this is not a transfer method. You paint straight onto the plate and then print your painting, and you get these wonderful textures and things like that. But I didn't put that in because we will be here until 2026. Right. On that note, I'm going to let you get on with your day. Thank you so much for staying with me. Like I said, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And if you have the time and would love to learn art, join me over on my Patreon. All of the details are in the description box below. We would love to see you over there. Come join the group. Right, I'll see you next time. Bye for now. Bye.